Okay, let's hear what you got. No, don't like that. That's better. I like that. That's the one.
Welcome to episode 6 of Chats. Today we're talking about kindness. I'm Corbin.
I'm Sarah. So kindness, this was another one of my harebrained ideas. But the reason I felt it was good to talk about kindness is that I can see our lack of kindness filling into a lot of spaces in our lives, and it's if we just take the time, and again, it's going to sound all rosy and overly simplistic, but I think a lot of things go back to the fact that we're not being kind. And what does it mean to be kind? I think that's a bigger question too. What some people think.
It's a tougher question.
Yeah.
Too.
So, give an example. We've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and we've noticed a lot of aggressive driving and people that are just frustrated in their day-to-day activities. So, the example that kind of brought this topic to the fore was we're at an intersection, and there are people who have pulled into the intersection to make a turn, and they're waiting for traffic to clear. Then the light changes. More people have pulled into the intersection to make the turn, and people are running the red light now in the other direction. So then people that are trying to make the turn on the left, they're caught in the intersection on a delaying traffic for themselves, and now the opposite direction, which is turning green. And automatically you have people honking horns and people getting frustrated. You can see people's reaction in their vehicles, kind of the hands are going everywhere, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that people are saying. So now that in turn creates a whole new dynamic with the traffic going in the second direction, right? Because they start doing the same thing. I was held up by those other people, so now I got to make sure that I get taken care of. And I think it all goes back to a fundamental lack of kindness in our own lives. I don't think we're very good to ourselves.
No.
I don't think we're very good to others. People who have to work in retail see it all the time. They're often the brunt of lack of kindness. And I know when you worked in retail, that was a big problem that you experienced too.
Yeah, especially around this time as well, before Christmas.
The holiday season.
And then during Christmas and after Christmas, everyone has that, Christmas spirit where they're all happy and kind, as we're saying. But right beforehand, when you should be kind, it should be year-round, but beforehand, just, people are stressed out about shopping and all this stuff, and they don't really consider others. I find this time of year mostly, but
and again, everybody's so busy, and that's where we need to take the time, and even if it's one or two little things, to make ourselves feel better about ourselves, so that we're not taking it out on others, because that's really what I think is the core of where the problem with kindness begins, is that we don't feel good about ourselves.
No.
Right?
Yeah, and then that spreads.
It's contagious.
Yeah.
So even something as small as, I'm going to get a little extra sleep, which I say this as a person who struggles with getting enough sleep. It makes me feel better in the morning. Doing what you feel like doing, not what you have to do. Like if you don't feel like eating breakfast, don't take the time to make breakfast if it's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
Wear what makes you feel comfortable. And I know I've had a struggle with this too. I'll put on an outfit. It's like, I know I have to wear this today for work. It's not what I want to wear, so I don't feel good about myself for the rest of the day because I'm wearing something that I don't feel comfortable in.
Yeah, you have to love yourself before you love others.
Yeah.
Not to that extent, but just be kind to yourself.
It's a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's whatever it does to give you a little bit of a break, because that's what it is. Kindness is just giving someone a break and demonstrating.
Holding a door open,
Okay, and let's talk about that, because I know for some people, like if you, being a male, held a door open for me, being a female, they might be offended, saying, wait a minute, why did he do that? How come he held the door open for me and I can open the door for myself?
And I was just brought up to do that, not not a gender thing, but some people take it that way.
And
but,
it should be. That's my opinion. It was taught to you not because you were male, but because it's kindness.
yeah.
I hold the door open for a ton of people. I've held the door open for you.
Yeah.
I've opened the door and held it open for you, your brother, and your dad.
Yeah.
And the same has happened in the reverse, where it has been held open for me by you or your brother or your dad. So it's just a gesture that don't overthink it. It's something sweet.
Yep.
If it's part of a bigger conversation, then make that a separate conversation. The one I see a lot is someone who's new on the job being trained.
Yeah.
I always feel bad for those people because I go back to, I remember being,
Empathy, yeah.
yeah, I remember being that person. It was my first day. I had to deal with money, hated dealing with money, fumbling with change, stressing I wasn't giving the right change back. And all I do when I walk up to someone who's obviously being trained, or especially at stores where they'll have the little
And
pin that says...
not all stores have it, right?
No, but those that do that have the pin that says, trainee or my first day or something. And I'll make a point of saying to them, they'll say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you had to wait. I'm sorry it took so long. And I'll say, it's okay. We all had first days. In my career, I've had multiple first days.
Yeah.
So if that little bit of grace toward them and saying, you know what, don't worry about it. I'm okay. Makes them feel better, then that's kindness.
Yeah. And
right?
that's helping them. If you were the opposite to them, 8 times out of 10, the person they're going to serve next won't get the same, I'm sorry for the wait and all that.
Well, and that's where it's contagious. It becomes a virus. People that are negative or angry or frustrated, you can create your own mini epidemic because anyone around you is going to pick up on that negativity. So why not flip the script and make kindness the epidemic?
Yeah.
And not being overly icky or mushy or Sally Sunshine. And I know some people can take it even further and will do the pay it forward thing with, I'm going to pay for your order at the drive-through. That's lovely.
Yeah.
I don't even think we have to go that far. I think we just need to take a big breath and just be a little kinder to the humans around us. That seems to be what's lacking.
Yeah, I find usually I find it with myself as well, but, it's like a big burst of kindness. And then after that, you're like, that's my, good deed for the year, you know? But...
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. There's something in the psyche where a lot of people just feel they've done something larger. It's not something small every day, which would probably be better in the long run, but something large.
They've made their contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. The good deed for the day, that's all. If everyone did that, it'd be different, So.
Well, and I know we've had conversations here too about situations that have happened or how people have responded or reacted to things. And you think, well, it's too bad that's how they felt about it because simply by changing a tone or, giving that moment a bit of space by not responding right away could have completely turned a situation around rather than, going aggressive on something. So I'd like to see people look at that in a more serious manner because you can see how it does spread. And I mean, we talked about, driving and road rage type thing. But think of the example of a kid going to school. Maybe mom and dad have had a stressful time or the child is under stress in the home. They go to school, they're already going to school at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So now they're going to school. Perhaps they're going to be acting out with their teacher or their peers or...
just not performing to their best ability.
Exactly. They're not going to do their best work. So then, the teacher will come back and say, hey, Corbin, you seem to be a handful today, or what's wrong with you, or what's going on. But sometimes it's just a case of you're not having a good day and I can't deal with this because as your teacher, I'm also having a bad day and I can't deal with what all I've got to deal with. That's one example about how it can start at home. It can manifest in another place, being at school. Maybe that kid won't end up playing with his friends that day because he's so frustrated and not feeling good about himself that other kids don't want to be around him or he doesn't interact well and can't, play a game or have a conversation with other kids. And then it snowballs into other things. So just being kind and just demonstrating a bit of positivity towards each other, I think is something that I would like to see it go in an ongoing way. And again, it sounds overly simplistic.
And that's the thing is that everyone, it makes it sound so easy. Just everyone being kind and all that. But if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Well, and I
Right.
think what you're saying is the point of the conversation is it's not about having one ginormous gesture
No.
because, you're days away from Christmas. I think it's a case of
Year
taking
round.
that opportunity to do, what am I going to do today that's going to be nice? Even if it's
Yeah.
smiling at someone and saying hi or good morning or what have you. Even if it's letting someone else in, coming into traffic in front
Yeah.
of you. Even if it's like, you know what, I'm not going to run a red light or a yellow light.
Yeah.
Because some of these things just have minimal impact, and some of them have tremendously large impact, and it's a ripple effect as well as we've been discussing.
Yeah. Small impact, large consequences.
Well, yeah, depending on the circumstances, right? You run a red light, you could end up hitting someone, you could devastate a family, you could lose a life. There's a lot of impact there too. But yeah, it's just been interesting the last little while how there've been different connections with kindness, whether it's even kindness towards animals or kindness towards the environment. And I know we've already kind of covered that in a previous podcast, but I think kindness is undervalued and underappreciated.
Yeah.
And it really can be something very simple. So, and perhaps our listeners could give us examples of kindness that they've experienced, something that's happened to them, or something that they've tried to give some kindness to someone else, because I think that would be something that could help make kindness contagious, as well as giving like legitimate examples.
Yeah.
And I've done both. You've talked about the grand gesture situation.
And the day-to-day stuff.
I've done that as well as tried on a day-to-day, and everybody has bad days.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you...
And it could have come from unkindness to themselves or from someone else.
Exactly. And it depends on how you handle that situation, whether or not it turns into something that becomes a bad day for everyone else. And I know we talk about that here at home, where, if you've had a bad day and you come home, how you handle that when you come home, and how you're treated when you come home feeling that you've had a bad day. Because it's very easy if 4 people come into the house and all 4 of us have had a bad day, that's just an explosion waiting to happen. For me, I have a nice little commute between my work and my home. So for me, I can kind of process things and kind of get out of my work head and into my home head, and figure out, what I'm going to do in the evening, what I'm doing with you guys, or, something that's happening with your schedule that'll impact me. I find that helps. It also makes me feel a little more relaxed if I've had a tough day at work. And right there is a kind of a gesture of kindness toward myself, where I'm giving myself that break and to utilize that commuting time for that. And a lot of people have that. So that's that's time that's already built into your day to kind of think about, what I'm dealing with or what I'm not dealing with. And don't get me wrong, I've had days where I've literally walked in the door and said to my family, it's been tough, and I'm just going to take myself and I'm going to just be over here, because I know that I'm having a hard time dealing with everything I've had to deal with today.
You need more time to process.
Well, and I don't want to ruin your day. I could come in and if my commute hasn't taken care of that, I'm not going to be very kind to you. I'm going to start spewing on you. That's not going to help you.
No.
And we've had times when you've come home and you've had that happen, where you've kind of exploded and kind of, put stuff out there where you've been frustrated. And what happens?
It doesn't end well.
Well,
So.
you see everybody else kind of feel down too, because everybody else has their burden as well. And that's not picking on you, because you're not the only one that's had a tough day. But that's an example of where people have to understand that our actions have impact on other people, and our positivity can have impact on other people. So I think that's something that we just need to give a little more thought to.
Yeah, it just reminded me of the quote, don't take kindness for weakness.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. A lot of people have that happen to them, and then after that they maybe don't feel like helping or stuff like that. But no, I thought of that quote. That's a good quote.
Well, weakness is one thing, but it takes a lot of strength to be kind when you don't feel
like
you're coming from a
giving it
place of
back.
strength.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of our service providers are, when you hear about burnout with them too, they're in constantly negative situations over and over and over again.
People being unkind to them when they're trying to be their best sometimes to be kind to them.
And after a while, it gets hard. And it's the whole analogy of, filling your cup or putting on your air mask before you put on someone else's.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to taking care of yourself and being kind to yourself so you can be kind to others. But yeah, it was an interesting thought. We actually saw it in practice that day when we were sitting at the intersection,
Yeah.
and you could just see how. And I mean, I felt it myself as the driver of our vehicle, thinking, "Oh my God, now these people, they're holding me back because they've taken their time longer in
Yeah.
the intersection, and so you feel that entitlement. Well, if they took that time from me, then I'm going to take my time next.
Yeah.
Well, of course, by me doing that, I would be taking time
It
from
just
someone
keeps going.
else, and it's a never-ending cycle. But yeah. And especially for kids, they already understand what kindness is. I think that's something as we get older, and we don't
Teach
give
that
our
at school.
we do, but I think as we get busier and as we get more frustrated and there's more demands put on us, we forget about kindness because it's only focusing on expectation and responsibility and accountability and that type of thing. And I think it fits in there. I think kindness makes us better with all those other requirements in our life as we get older. And you're absolutely right. I think there are some people out there who look at people who are kind and think, oh, well, they're dumb or they're weak or they're, they don't get it. Naive, exactly. And that's kind of sad because I think we need to get back around to that and bring that forward more. So yeah, it'd be interesting if anyone has any thoughts or feelings about kindness. It's a very simplistic topic today,
Yeah.
but it's something that came up, and I thought this could be an interesting
Idea.
talking
Bring it up.
point to put out there. And even the more we talk about it, I think the more it'll spread, and the better we'll feel about ourselves in the long run too. Especially with like you say, it's so busy around Christmas time, and people are pushing. And again, why are they pushing and shoving? Because there's pressure on them. And why is there pressure on them? Because there's an expectation of what they have to do, and they don't feel they have enough time to do it.
No.
So maybe there's a reevaluation that has to happen there too. But
It needs to be the jolly season.
The jolly season.
Well, the Christmas season.
yeah.
Not the run around with like a chicken with its head cut off season.
Well, I think we need to do a whole separate podcast about Christmas and expectations and traditions
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Well,
Oh, he's cringing. You cringed when I said that.
No, just because, I don't know, I just think about the consumerism side. and
Well, that's a
stuff
good
like
thing
that.
we can
Yeah.
talk about. I think that's a whole interesting thing that I'm
A
seeing a
Christmas
change in it.
themed episode.
We'll do that. Yeah. So this one's a little shorter today. We just wanted to take a moment and, give you a little food for thought. And if this podcast brightens your day and makes you feel uplifted, then that's great. That's what we hope to accomplish. We are really excited about any feedback you want to give us. We are on a number of streaming platforms, and we want to hear your feedback either through reviews and comments there, or you can email us directly at chatspodcast@gmail.com. That's chats, CHATS podcast@gmail.com. Again, or you can provide us feedback on our Facebook page or streaming platforms.
Yes, and I think that's going to be everything for today.
Yeah.
But this has been me, Corbin,
And Sarah.
and don't forget to join us for our next chats.